Hey everyone. It's been a couple months since my last video, and well, it hasn't been for a lack of trying. I was hoping to be able to put together another 20 or 30 minute video essay about something, but for various reasons I haven't been successful. So I figured I'd go back to an old standard. I bought something weird on eBay, and I'm going to show it to you. This box contains 25 sheets of Kodak SO-015 professional direct duplicating film. Some are around 40 years old, and it's designed to solve a problem basically nobody has anymore. Picture this. It's the early 80s, and you've just gone out with your slightly old-fashioned but still reasonable large-format camera and taken an award-winning photograph. You're so proud of it that you want to print it 6 feet tall and put it up in your living room, but of course that's way too big to print yourself, so you'll have to get it done at a specialty print shop. However, this being the early 80s, you don't just send them a digital file, you have to give them the negative to print from. And that's a problem because you don't want to give them the negative, the single original copy of that award-winning photo, because what if something happens to it? So you make a copy. First, you stack the negative up on top of another piece of film, expose it to light, and develop it. This process is known as contact printing, and once you develop the second sheet, you get an interpositive. Dry the interpositive off, repeat the process, and you get a copy of your negative. So great, you've got a copy, you don't mind if it gets lost in the mail or whatever, you send it off to the print shop, and you get the print back and it looks like crap. The contrast is all over the place, and since it's 6 feet tall, you can tell that it doesn't have all the detail that was in your original negative. And this all makes sense because you basically copied the negative twice, and since it's an analog process, each copy is going to reduce the image quality. You go back down to the photo store and you tell the guy behind the counter you want better copies, and he hands you this. So what does this Kodak film add to the process? Well, it actually removes a step. See, this is what's known as a direct positive film. Instead of getting darker when exposed to light, it gets lighter. That way, if you contact print a negative onto it, you just get a copy of that negative, directly, one step. Not only do you get less generation loss, it's an easier process as well, because you don't have to wait for the interpositive to dry, and the contrast is tuned to match ordinary black and white negative film. So let's try it out. Now this film is over 40 years past its expiration date, so I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to try it out. Welcome to the darkroom. Through the wonders of modern LED lighting technology, it's actually not very dark in here. I can see fine, and more importantly for you, the camera can see fine. Let's see what's in here. This is sealed. I'll need to open the box, and I will get one sheet out. I don't like this packaging. That's been improved in modern 4x5 film, let me tell you. So, here's what we've got. Looks like 4x5 film. We've got the notch in the corner there. That's all normal. So, let's try it. I'll just stack that up on my negative here, then go over to the enlarger. I'm going to expose this for 40 seconds. So I'll turn that on. All right, it's now 40 seconds later, and we should have an exposure on here. So let's see what happens. Again, literally the first time you're finding out along with me whether this is any good. Here goes nothing. Not doing much. Nope, hang on. I'm starting to see something. I'm starting to see something that looks vaguely like the image. I don't know if this comes across on camera, but I can clearly see the outline of like the frame border on here. And I think I can see some image elements starting to form. Yeah, that is coming out. Holy cow, I did not expect that. Anyways, I think that's probably enough development. So I'm gonna pull this out. Yeah, I think we got something. And here's what we got. Obviously the copied negative is extremely thin, which could just be because the film's old, but I think I actually just overexposed it. I'll try again with a 15-second exposure. Oh yeah, that's more what I was expecting to happen. Did I just overexpose the crap out of it? I think I just overexposed the crap out of it. Alright, now that's a lot better. It's still thin, but I've scanned it and I can tell all the image details there, which is a lot better than we could say about the two-step copy. I'll put the comparison up on screen so you can see the difference. So yeah, this film still works. But now that we know that it works, let's take a second to talk about how it works, since it really doesn't work like normal transparency film. See, most slide film works something like this. You expose the film, you develop it normally, but you do something to make sure the results of that first development won't make it to the final image. Then you expose the film to light again and develop it a second time, but this time you do keep the image. You end up with density everywhere the film wasn't exposed to light originally, so you get a positive. By the way, there are some differences in that process for modern color slide film. The steps aren't exactly in that order and they don't work exactly like that. I believe it's accurate for black and white slide film, but the point is that it's a two-step process where you develop normally and then reverse the film with a second development. But as you probably noticed, I didn't need a reversal step with the Kodak film. I just exposed it, stuck it in the developer, and got a positive. That's because this stuff works on a principle known as solarization. See, every film has what's known as a characteristic curve. That's the graph that relates light in to density out, and for most film it looks something like this. Notice that as we increase the amount of exposure, the resulting density also increases. That's why we get a negative. More light in means less light out. And if we continue this graph out, there's actually a point where the density starts decreasing again. So what we can do is when we manufacture the film, we actually pre-expose it right up to this point. Then, once it's exposed again by the user, any further exposure will make the film lighter and they'll get a direct positive. This approach does have a couple limitations. The film ends up being extremely insensitive to light, and the relationship between exposure, development time, and density is completely mind-bending if you're used to normal film, but it works just fine for darkroom applications like this. But come on, you're not here for darkroom applications, are you? Let's put this stuff in a camera. I actually did that the other day, and unfortunately it really doesn't work that well. Since the film is extremely slow, you're looking at multi-second exposures on all but the brightest days. After some experimentation, I was able to find that a rating of about ISO-115 was reasonable, and then it rained for a month and I haven't been able to go out. So eventually I just said to hell with it and set up a studio portrait. That really wasn't any easier, since even this enormous studio flash barely puts out enough light to get a good picture. I had it about 4 feet away from my head, since I feel like with this one putting it any closer is a safety hazard, but it got the job done. And here's what I got. Despite being a little out of focus, I think it's come out just fine. It definitely doesn't look like what you get out of modern slide film, but you know, you can see me in the picture. If this was the only film you had, you could use it to take a photo, and that's really as much as you can hope for from film that's 40 years out of date. Also, I mean, even a kinda screwed up 4x5 transparency is still just beautiful. Look at that. So, in conclusion, 43-year-old film still works, that's neat. Am I gonna go out and shoot the rest of this box right now? Absolutely not, it's completely impractical. Get some foam-pan. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look into what's easily the weirdest film I've ever used. Let me know if you liked the video, and consider subscribing if you'd like to come along on my next analog photography adventure. Unfortunately, the next one's probably going to be more about film scanning. And of course, thanks for watching.